Welcome to the Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Goldberg. We have got a very special show for you today. With us in the studio is Steve Wilson from Strategic Marketing Works. Steve has been in the marketing space since, can I say before there was digital?
Yes, most definitely. When I used to go on press and we used to do blueprints of printed brochures, and I tell people now, the younger ones, about a blueprint, and they give me a look like, what are you talking about?
Separations.
Separation, yeah, they don't know from separations either.
Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks
so
for
tell us about, don't even give us the now. Take us back to where you started, and we'll end with the now.
End with the now. So I guess it all started after I graduated as a college. I went to my college graduation party, and one of my father's friends came up to me, and he goes, so what are you going to do now? And it was sort of like The Graduate, you know.
Plastics.
But he didn't tell me plastics. He told me he has a friend who has this company in Manhasset. Could give him a call. So I called him. He turned out to be like the mentor of my life. It was Jerry Leeds, the guy that started CMP. And my timing was such that I was at CMP in its formative years when there's only two publications called Electronic Engineering Times and Electronic Buyers News. And I had given him this rap that I was a psychology major and that would really help me because they had an assistant marketing. Of course. Yeah. So I became their assistant marketing manager, and I was there for 3 years. And I was, like I said, I was on press, and I learned like everything. And then Mr. Leeds sent me to some writing courses and helped me refine my writing. So it was a great time. That's where I learned a lot.
And what was the next step? So you were there for 3 years.
Yeah, and I had a pretty good background in marketing in all phases, pre-digital, of course. Mm-hmm. And my friends were getting these cool jobs in the city, so I hooked up with a headhunter. And short version is I became the account executive at Waring and LaRosa Advertising, which was a Madison Avenue agency in New York. And my client for just under 2 years was the FisherPrice toy account. Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the systems and the values that I do now in terms of putting together projects of any size or scale, I still rely on the processes that I learned as an account exec for a $50 million a year advertising budget.
Sure. It's a master's without the university.
Ooh, I like that.
In-field masters.
Yes.
How about that one?
Okay, that sounds good.
So after FisherPrice?
From FisherPrice.
Wasn't FisherPrice. It was...
Waring LaRosa, the agency. But I worked exclusively on the FisherPrice toy account. It was always tough doing Toy Fair in February, and we had to have all the spots and most of the artwork for the print ads done in February for ads that were not going to run until the fourth quarter. Mm. But it was just something we learned how to do and whatever else. But from FisherPrice, I just felt I wanted to get more engaged. And that was the time when sports marketing was really getting to be a hot buzzword for the first time, with sponsorships aligning and leveraging their sponsorships. Sure. Not just putting up a sign in the stadium and taking some clients and getting them drunk, but to really use it as a marketing tool. And I was really interested in that. And I went into my boss, and the short version, a long story is I started working at IMG, the company that Mark McCormick owned and founded. And that was phenomenal. I mean, I worked on PGA Tour events, leveraging sponsorships. I worked with a lot of different companies, USF&G Insurance. They were the first sponsor of a college football bowl game. And I managed all that because I was a football guy. So I was assigned to football projects. And but not only it was just a market, but we used it as a marketing program. So the idea was that Mark McCormick had this saying that if you spent $1 to sponsor an event, you have to spend $3 to leverage it. Hmm. So it sort of was an interesting strategy, philosophy. And I still do that now in some of the things that I work on.
We only have 15 minutes, so I can't ask you for more than one case study, if you will. But tell me about one interesting project that comes to mind that you were involved with back then.
Back then, Frito-Lay. Everybody has eaten some of their chips or snacks, what have you.
Guilty on multiple accounts.
Yes. But so they became the official snack food of the NFL. And the intention, as the product manager, who I met with several times down in Plano, Texas, the product manager said the only reason that Frito-Lay became a sponsor of the NFL was to help them get end cap displays in supermarkets around the country. And they had these big fancy internal meetings saying, okay, how can we get end cap displays during football, because football is a key selling season for them with all the parties and stuff. And they decided that they should become a sponsor of the NFL. So they paid the NFL about $10 million for the rights to do so. And then using Mark's adage of spending, if you spend $1, you got to spend $3 to leverage it. So I helped develop, I was the main guy, we developed what we call the modular marketing program. And so that they could take it to supermarket and food chains around the country. Like if down in Florida, it's Publix, which is a great place. Mm-hmm. Here in New York, now it's Stop and Shop everywhere, and that's other places in different parts of the country. So we developed a modular campaign that included, we had a checklist of all the things that we wanted to have done. And what it was an in-store display with Frito-Lay. And we just slotted in each team as we did it around the country. So we didn't do it at all, but we did it like in 25 markets, I remember. And included player appearances, charity donations, coupons and the like. So it was a real integrated program. And they had some metrics they used to measure it by case sales or whatever. And they were happy with the results.
So where'd you go to from there?
From IMG, my dream job, I got hired away to become the director of special events at Golf Digest magazine. So it was, I don't want to say it was a lateral move, but it was pretty fun. My wife liked coming to all the different resorts because obviously in Golf Digest, I worked a lot more on events and stuff. But still with the same premise that using an event as a marketing tool. I mean, you're still spending a lot of money, and so you still want to show an ROI for it. And that was my charge, to do those kind of things.
Now, were you planning the events as well as marketing them, or one or the other, both?
Yeah, the actual event itself was, part of the whole marketing as much as an ad or editorial or a direct mail piece might be. The event became the marketing tool. And how it worked was there were ad salespeople, I forget, maybe 10 or 12 for Golf Digest. They're all segmented by industries. Excuse me. So my friend Bill Decker called me up one day. He said, Payne Weber's coming in. They're going to be a 12 times advertiser in Golf Digest. They want to do a promotion, and they have, I forget the exact number, but it was like $400,000 for the year. And long story, we had a meeting with them in their big corner office on 6th Avenue, and they wanted to only do an upscale golf event program promotion. They really didn't know, what format it was going to be, but they wanted to use golf. That was their strategy to reach a very targeted segment of their target audience. So going home on the train back to Babylon, I realized that Bill Davis and Howard Gill had started Golf Digest, like 60 years ago now. And what they did was they thought people would not want to read a golf magazine in February. So their plan was to literally handwrite postcards and send them to every club pro in America. And on the postcard, it said, send us the name of your club champion, and we'll put him
we'll
back
publish
then,
that champion.
And we'll make when he'll be in our February issue of Golf Digest, which help them. That's why Golf Digest is still, pretty strong property. And so it had gotten to the point where club pros were sending in the names of their club champion every year. Yeah. But what that meant from a marketing perspective is that we had 5,000 names of some pretty cool demographics of people, across the country. So short version was we sent the one page. Back then it was faxing. You tell kids now you fax, they don't know. But we faxed a one-page proposal to John Lampe, who was the VP marketing of Payne Weber, and he faxed back within an hour a signature for a 2-year contract.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty nice. And but again, that was really where the event was really just a tool, because in the process, Payne Weber got all these names. Mm-hmm. And what we did, we developed a little kit. It was sort of like a fancy press kit with like a certificate, like similar to you'd get on graduation or what have you. And we made it all fancy. And Donald Marin was the president of Payne Weber at the time, and Jay Fitzgerald was the publisher of Golf. And they signed it, and it looked like a really fancy certificate. Right. But it was for winning your club champion. You are now invited to play in the Payne Weber Club Champion Invitational in Orlando, Florida.
You probably had 100% response.
We had a pretty good response. I've never really been high on forecasting, and Jay actually asked me, when we sent out the initial mailing, well, how many people are we going to get in this thing? And I just said, I don't know. But we had 200 people come from across the country to play. We had one practice round and 2 rounds of competition at the Hyatt Regency, Cyprus, Grand Cyprus. And it was a phenomenal event. But in the process, we did all this mailing to all these club champions of, private clubs. And then at the same time, Payne Weber brought in one of their tax specialists, and he gave a 40-minute presentation. And then we scheduled it into the whole 4-day event in Grand Cyprus. Everybody went to see this presentation. And then what we did, we had the editorial staff come down, and they put together like a 50-question survey, and they asked all the club champions all these surveys. And then what we did, we ran it as an editorial piece 2 months after the event. Like, everybody always wanted to know, the headline was something like, what are the demographics of a club champion? Well, we did this at the Payne Weber Club Champion Invitational. Here's the results.
Phenomenal.
But that's part of the whole overall marketing that I have been doing. And now in the digital space, there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained by integrating kinds of things. And that's why I reached out to Beth Granger and Juan Vides to form an alliance.
Fantastic. Well, we're just about out of time. I'm starting to hear the music. I do want to ask you, just give us 30 seconds about your company today. Just a quick 30-second overview.
Okay, my company today is Strategic Marketing Works. And when people ask, I tell them that we are a content marketing agency. And the reason why we shifted from being a general agency to a content agency is that with the whole internet now, the consumer is now empowered to do all this research about a product or a service way before they make their first contact with your company's salesperson. So the idea is that if we could help companies create that content that consumers, whether it's B2B or B2C, are looking for, via Google searches or doing Yelp reviews or what have you, if we could create the content that's going to engage their prospects, you have a higher chance of converting them into customers. And that's what we do.
I look forward to having you back on the show in the future.
Great. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Steve Wilson, thank you so much. You've been listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Dave Goldberg. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon. The Digital Marketing Podcast is a presentation of Digital Waterworx Corporate Communication Production. Unauthorized use prohibited.